I'd like to ask you a few health screening questions about alcohol, nicotine, tobacco, and other drugs that we're asking all students enrolled in our school-based health center. There will be no written record of your answers that include information that personally identifies you. Anything you tell me will be kept as confidential as possible. One instance where this information would not be kept confidential is if something you say indicates that there is an immediate risk to your safety or the safety of someone else. In any case, we would work together to figure out our next steps and how to best support you together. Do you understand?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is it okay to ask you these questions?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
During the past 12 months, on how many days did you drink more than a few sips of beer, wine, or any drink containing alcohol?
0.
During the past 12 months, how many days did you use marijuana? For example, cannabis, weed, oil, wax, or hash by smoking, vaping, dabbing, or in food, or any synthetic marijuana like K2.
0.
During the past 12 months, on how many days did you use anything else to get high, like illegal drugs, pills, prescription or over-the-counter medications, or things that you sniff, huff, vape, or inject?
I haven't done any of that, 0.
Okay. During the past 12 months, on how many days did you use a vaping device containing nicotine or flavors, or use any tobacco products? So some examples might be e-cigarettes, mods, pod devices like Juul, disposable vapes like the Puff Bar, or vape pens, e-hookahs, or traditional cigarettes, cigars, cigarillos, hookahs, chewing tobacco, snuff, snus, dissolvables, or nicotine pouches.
Um, I use the disposable vapes like Juuls pretty regularly, most days, I would say.
Thanks, JC. I do have a few more questions to go over with you this morning. Have you ever ridden in a car driven by someone else, including yourself, who was high or had been using alcohol or drugs?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever tried to quit using those vapes but couldn't?
I've gone a few days without it here and there before, but have never really been able to stick with it.
Okay. Do you vape or use tobacco now because it's really hard to quit?
I mean, that's not why I vape, but when I've tried it, it has been really hard.
Have you ever felt like you were addicted to vaping or tobacco?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Do you ever have strong cravings to vape or use tobacco?
I would say sometimes.
Have you ever felt like you really needed to vape or use tobacco?
Sometimes.
Is it hard to keep from vaping or using tobacco in places where you're not supposed to, like school?
No, not really.
When you haven't vaped or used tobacco in a while, or when you tried to stop using, did you find that it was hard to concentrate because you couldn't vape or use tobacco?
Yeah, it was maybe a little harder after school or the usual times that I would vape.
Do you feel more irritable because you couldn't vape or use tobacco?
I only ever tried for a few days, but yeah, for sure, I felt more irritated.
All right. Did you feel a strong need to urge or use a vape or tobacco?
I didn't feel like I needed to necessarily, but I really wanted to.
Did you feel nervous, restless, or anxious because you couldn't vape or use tobacco?
Maybe a little more anxious, yeah.
Thanks for answering all those questions. I do have a few more before we wrap up. Can you maybe share a little bit about why you like vaping? What do you see as benefits?
It's just something to do when I'm bored mostly. I got my license this year and I like to vape when I'm driving home from school or on my way to visit friends. It's just relaxing and calms me down, and I like that there's different flavors.
Is there anything that you maybe like less about vaping?
The only thing that bothers me is that I know inhaling anything in my lungs still isn't great for me. I do sports, specifically cross country, basketball, and tennis, and I have felt a difference in my performance since I started vaping more.
Yeah, it sounds like your performance as an athlete's really important to you, and you know some of the risks associated with vaping. Are there any other risks you've heard about using vape products that concern you?
Well, I know that vapes are really bad for the environment. I see the pods on the ground all the time around town.
That's definitely an issue, particularly for those disposable cartridges. Do you mind if I share some additional information with you about how vaping can impact your health?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so you're right, JC. The vapor that's inhaled when you use a Juul contains lots of harmful chemicals, including things like benzene, formaldehyde, and even metals, all of which can coat your lungs and cause long term or permanent damage to your lungs. Even short term use can impact your health by inducing coughing, shortness of breath, headaches, or make you nauseous. You mentioned you felt a difference in your athletic performance since you started vaping. Do you ever experience any of those symptoms?
Yeah, I get really bad headaches, more so when I'm not vaping, but I also feel out of breath, like way faster than I ever have on the tennis court, even though I condition all the time.
Mhm. One of the other things that you might already know, but it's not always clear for young people who use vapes, is that they actually contain nicotine, which is the addictive chemical that's found in traditional cigarettes. The level of nicotine in different types of vapes can vary, but often actually contain more nicotine than traditional cigarettes, which can get you hooked faster and make it more difficult to cut down or quit. Do you have any thoughts about that?
So I did know that the jewels I use have nicotine in them, but I didn't realize that it could be more than it is in a regular cigarette. Like, we all know that smoking is bad for us. I thought I was doing something that was healthier overall.
Yeah, that's definitely a misconception that a lot of people have about vaping. Young people who vape can sometimes be at greater risk for transitioning to cigarettes or other tobacco use down the line because you've already been exposed to those high levels of nicotine.
I guess I just didn't really get the full picture on them.
Right. The tobacco industry spent a lot of time, money, and resources to make sure that adolescents don't get all the facts. Given what we've talked about today, I'd like you to consider a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being not ready at all and 10 being very ready, for you to stop or cut down on vaping moving forward.
I guess I would probably say a 7.
And do you mind sharing with me why you picked 7 instead of maybe a 5 or a 6?
Um, I actually really like vaping, but the fact that I do feel a difference in my ability this sports season has been really upsetting to me. And then I didn't fully know how many chemicals were in these things.
Staying healthy and safe for athletics is important to you.
Yeah.
JC, when you think about that same 1 to 10 scale in terms of how confident you are in your ability to cut down or quit vaping, what number do you think you'd pick?
For that, I think maybe a 4.
And why do you think you picked 4 instead of something lower like a 2 or a 3?
Well, I honestly feel like 4 is pretty low. I just know that in my past, when I've tried to cut down or had to go without because of school or being afraid of my family finding out, it's been really hard for me to do that.
I appreciate your honesty, JC. Nicotine, whether it's in a vape or in a more traditional product, is a really addictive chemical. So it makes sense that it would be challenging to quit without support. What I would love to do as a follow up to our meeting today is to help you enroll in a program called My Life, My Quit. It's a text and phone based program that was designed specifically for teens who are trying to stop using tobacco and nicotine products. The cool thing is that it's free and self paced and private, and is something that you and I can also check in about together once you start participating. Do you think that's something that you might be willing to explore as a tool to support you in making this change?
I think I'd like to take the rest of the day to think about this. But I guess if it is really private and I can do it on my own time, then I would at least give it a try.
Of course, you can take the rest of the day to think about it. I want you to know that even if you decide not to enroll right now, that you and I can talk about this or any other issues that come up for you as we move forward. That being said, would you mind if I connected with you sometime tomorrow morning to see how you're feeling about enrolling?
Yeah, I guess that's okay to check in about it tomorrow.
Great. Before I let you get back to class, I wanted to thank you for being so open and honest with me in our conversation today and see if there's any other questions that I might be able to answer for you around anything we talked about.
Not right now, but I think um, if anything comes up between now and when we talk tomorrow, I'll definitely let you know.
Sounds good. I'll connect with you in the morning and we'll make a plan for next steps.